Looking to take your financial knowledge to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to Ask Ralph, offering accounting, technical, and financial advice. Whether you're looking to save taxes or improve your business, he's got you covered. Here's your host of Ask Ralph, Ralph Eastup Jr.
Hello and welcome back to the Ask Ralph Show. Today I thought I'd take some time and talk about what do you do when you just seem like you're hitting a brick wall with the IRS. You know, you've received their notices, you've responded to their notices, you've called, but it just seems like you're not getting anywhere. Now, in order to assist, several years ago, the IRS developed a group called the Taxpayers Advocacy Service, or in short called TAS. So I thought I'd take a few minutes and talk about what does TAS do and, what are the type of cases that they handle. So on the IRS website, there's a great publication here, and it's called Taxpayers Advocacy Service is Your Voice at the IRS. And I thought I'd go over the 10 things that every taxpayer should know about TAS, or Taxpayers Advocacy Service. So let's start with these things. Number one, the Taxpayers Advocacy Service, or TAS, as we talked about, is an independent organization within the IRS. And as they stay here, it's your voice at the IRS. So that's the first thing. The second thing is they help taxpayers whose problems are causing financial difficulty. This includes businesses as well as individuals. And we'll talk about the type of cases that they handle, but that's the first thing you need to understand. They are going to put, more effort into cases where taxpayers are having financial situations. Number three, you may be eligible for our help if you tried to resolve your tax problem through normal IRS channels and have gotten nowhere, or you believe an IRS procedure just isn't working as it should. Now, that's a key point. The first thing they're going to talk about with TAS is, have you tried to work this through traditional IRS channels? They're not going to take a case if you haven't done the normal things trying to get it resolved. Now, number four is the Taxpayer's Bill of Rights, and we're going to talk about those in another session. That's the 10 fundamental rights that every taxpayer has when interacting with the IRS. And I don't want to talk about that now because it wouldn't do it service, but we're going to talk about that in another session. Number five, if you qualify for their help or our help, you'll be assigned to one advocate who will be with you at every turn, and the service is free. So that's one of the cool things about the Taxpayers Advocate Service. They're going to assign you a particular individual, and that individual is going to take responsibility for your case if they accept your case. And that's going to be your point of contact, so that, throughout the whole process, that'll be somebody you can call on and find out what's going on. And like I said, there's no cost for this. Number six, we have at least one local taxpayers advocate office in every state, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. You can call your advocate whose number is in your local directory. That's in publication 1546, which is the Taxpayers Advocate Service, Your Voice at the IRS. And their website is irs.gov/advocate. You can also call them toll free at 877-777-4778. And that's really a good place to start. You can call them, or you can also file a Form 911, which is the form that they use to get taxpayers advocate assistance. So number seven, the tax, we send that 10 times, you tie yourself up in knots. The TAS Tax Toolkit at taxpayersadvocate.irs.gov has basic tax information, details about tax credits for individuals and businesses, and much more. It really is a robust area to go and look at very interesting things as it relates to taxes. Number eight, TAS, or Taxpayers Advocate, also handles large-scale or systemic problems that affect many taxpayers. If you know of one of these broad issues, please report it to us at /SAMS, so Taxpayers Advocate /SAMS. What they're talking about here is if you see a problem that is, corporate-wide with the IRS, TAS is the kind of people that will handle that. That's what they're going to do. You can get updates about TAS at facebook.com, twitter.com, or youtube.com. And number 10, TAS is here to help you, because when you're dealing with tax problems, the worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And I absolutely agree with that. So what are the types of cases that TAS takes? And there was a letter written by the Taxpayers Advocate Service not too long ago, and it talks about, what they do. And I'm going to read verbatim from that, because it says Taxpayers Advocate Service clarifies case acceptance criteria. And that's because there were a lot of people that thought, oh, you know what? I'm not going to worry about all these tax things. I'm just going to go to the advocate and they're going to help me. The Taxpayers Advocate is designed to be a safety net for taxpayers who are experiencing problems with the IRS. However, they can't possibly handle all 6 million to 12 million taxpayers who may be having problems at any given time. Now, that's a scary statistic. So the IRS is admitting that there's 6 to 12 million taxpayers who are having problems at any given time. So in June 2012, we provided information to better clarify the types of cases where we can add the most value. So here's the key things. These are the 4 areas that the taxpayer's advocate will generally help you with. Number 1, where the taxpayer is experiencing some financial difficulty, emergency, or hardship, and the IRS needs to move much faster than it usually does or even can under its normal procedure. In those cases, time is of the essence. If the IRS doesn't act quickly, for example, to remove a levy or release a lien, the taxpayer will experience even more financial harm. Classic case of this is when the IRS may file a levy or the IRS may file a wage garnishment. And the immediate financial situation is that, maybe you can't feed your family and maybe you can't make your mortgage payment. You're going to be left out in the cold. Those are cases that taxpayer's advocate is going to work on very quickly. Number 2, where many different IRS units and steps are involved and a case needs a coordinator or a traffic cop to make sure everyone does their part. Task plays that role. And I've seen that work out. In some cases, a situation or an issue may involve several different areas at the IRS. And where I've seen this with task is really able to coordinate that. Number 3, where the taxpayer has tried to resolve a problem through normal IRS channels, but those channels have broken down. This is the classic scenario of I've written a letter and I've called the IRS and I've written another letter, called, and I'm not getting anywhere. Number 4, where the taxpayer is presenting unique facts or issues, including legal issues, and the IRS is applying a one-size-fits-all approach, isn't listening to the taxpayer, or doesn't recognize that it needs new guidance for those circumstances. So it's really those things, those things that fit within that normal thing that you go through the normal IRS channels. But then when they don't fit in those normal boxes of the IRS, this is an area to go and help. And it says, last year we assessed where our efforts had the greatest impact and identified 4 types of issues in which the IRS seemed to get the right answer, though slowly. So they admit that. Those cases involve the processing of original tax returns, amended returns, rejected and unpostable returns, and injured but not innocent spouse claims. We determined that tax generally won't accept cases involving these pure processing issues, so we could focus on higher impact problems. So they're not going to take, your average case of, an amended return or an original tax return. But there are many exceptions to that policy. If the taxpayer is suffering an economic burden, tax will take the case. If the case involves other issues, as in the example below, tax will take the case. If the taxpayer is referred by a congressional office, tax will take the case. And if the taxpayer specifically requests to insist, tax will take the case. So the whole idea here is, in their example here, number 1 is that a taxpayer has more than one issue. The normal processing time for amended returns is approximately 8 to 12 weeks. The taxpayer filed a 2010 Form 1040X, which is the amended return, more than 4 months ago expecting a refund, but has an outstanding balance for tax year 2009 is receiving collection notices. So this is where task can step in and say, wait a second, let's process this 2010 amended return, which will resolve the issue for 2009. So those are the type of cases that TASC is going to take. So again, if you find yourself in this position, you can reach out to them at 877-777-4778.
You've been listening to Ask Ralph, brought to you by Saggio Accounting Plus. Please subscribe to and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave us a rating and review. Our podcast is produced by Carolyn Peters. Thank you for listening, and be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Ask Ralph Media. You can also hear me each week on 1450 WILM and on 1410 WDOV in Delaware and on the iHeartRadio app. Submit your questions or ideas for future shows by sending an email to AskRalph@AskRalph.com.
The information contained in this episode of Ask Ralph is based on data available as of the date of its release. Saggio Accounting Plus and Ask Ralph Media Inc. is under no obligation to update this content if changes occur. Applying this information to your specific situation requires careful consideration of all facts and circumstances, and any information provided is not to be considered as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult your tax advisor or attorney before acting on any material covered.